Okay, we are officially recording. So today's
Are you
lesson
sending
was
out these notes when you're finished with them?
Yes, actually the notes will update as soon as we're done, and then you can actually download them from Google Classroom, the same place where I had posted them before. But instead of being blank, they will be filled in. So yeah, I will after the lesson is over, these notes will sync up, and then if you want to download my version of the notes, you can. Or if you want to download them right now and follow along, if you're better at doing that than just having the notes done, if you'd like to follow along with the lesson, you can go ahead and download the blank version right now. And we'll go ahead and get started. There's no homework due today, first of all, because Friday was a review day, so we didn't have any homework. So we're just going to go ahead and go right into this lesson. This is the last lesson from our chapter 6 percents chapter, which means there's a test coming up soon. It's actually going to be next week, not this week. And we're going to do these notes today, and then we're going to review tomorrow with a worksheet that was supposed to be in-class worksheet. It will be an in-class worksheet as long as we're in class. I'm hoping the roads will clear up, and we'll be back in school tomorrow. So let's start and talk about what interest is. Interest is money paid or earned for borrowing money. Whoops. Money paid or money earned for borrowing money. So if you deposit money into the bank, into a savings account, for example, then you will earn interest off of that. And because you're giving the bank your money, the bank is the one borrowing it from you, and they will actually pay you a very small interest rate on your money. So if I deposit $1,000 into a savings account, every month they might throw in a few extra dollars here and there, a certain percentage of that, as my little reward, I guess, for letting them borrow their money or my money. Usually, though, when we think of interest, we don't think about us, unfortunately, earning the interest. We think of us having to pay the interest. So anytime that you're the one borrowing the money, if you're taking out a loan, for example, then you have to pay interest. So for example, when you guys are graduating high school, and those of you that will go to college, many of you will have to take out student loans because the cost of those college classes and everything that comes with that is very expensive. So you'll have to take out loans. The interest isn't just the money you have to pay back. So if, let's say I borrow $5,000 to take some classes, I don't just have to pay the $5,000 back. The bank is going to charge me interest on that, and I'll have to pay maybe $6,500 back. So there's a lot of interest that I have to pay, and usually it's at a high rate. If I use a credit card, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow, but if I use a credit card and I don't pay off the money on my credit card right away, I will get charged interest there as well. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can get charged interest. And today, specifically, we're talking about simple interest. This is the kind of interest that you'd have to pay on a mortgage. So a mortgage is a loan that you take out for buying a house. And so one day you guys may be in a position where you are wanting to buy a house, maybe even start a family. And houses are very expensive, and you probably won't have enough money to pay for it straight up. And so you'll have to take out a mortgage, and the simple interest is how you actually calculate what you'd be paying on that loan. So we'll go ahead and talk about some different vocab words for this section. The amount of money borrowed or deposited. So if you're borrowing money, it means you're taking it. If you're depositing money, it means you're giving it. You're putting it into the bank. And so that amount that you start with is called the principal. Simple interest is money paid or earned only on that principal. There's another kind of interest called compound interest. And that's the kind of interest that credit card companies use. And they calculate their interest a little bit differently. And there's a lot more complicated formula, and we're not going to worry about that. That's something you might do when you're in your high school math classes. We're just going to talk about simple interest, and it's called simple interest because it's very simple to calculate. It has this nice equation, easy to remember, the IPERT equation. I equals PRT, and I'm going to tell you what each of those variables stand for. So the I in the simple interest formula, the capital I stands for the interest, which again is the fee for borrowing money. The capital P stands for the principal. The principal is the amount of money that you're starting with. So either you're the one taking out a loan for $5,000, or maybe you're putting $500 into a savings account. That money that you start with is called the principal. And then there's the rate. Now the rate is the percent charged or earned, if you're the one earning the interest. But we have to write it, for this formula, we have to write it in decimal form, which is how we've been writing all of our percents when we use our calculator. So that's not really any different. Okay. And then the T stands for time. And time is the length of the loan measured in years. Okay, so it's the time of the loan measured in years. I mentioned that this simple interest formula is how mortgage companies calculate how much you'd have to pay on a house loan. A mortgage is a house loan. A lot of house loans are for 30 years. Some of them maybe 15 years, but they're for a long time. And so the longer your loan, the more interest you'll have to pay on that loan. So it ends up costing you more. Okay, so the first several homework problems you're going to see in tonight's homework are going to have you find the interest and the balance on your account. So in these problems, you're the one earning the interest. So these are the good problems. You're the one actually earning. It says you put $500 in a savings account. The account earns 3% simple interest per year. What is the interest earned after 3 years? And then what is the balance in your account after 3 years? And so to start out this problem, I'm actually going to make a list and see if I can write out what my I variable is, my P variable, my R variable, and my T variable. It says you put $500 into a savings account. The amount of money that you start with, the amount of money that you're either investing or borrowing, in this case, the bank is borrowing it from you, that's always called the principal. So that $500 is going to be our P. Okay. It says the account earns 3% simple interest. And so that 3% is going to be our interest rate. So remember, the rate is always the percent that's given in decimal form. Yeah, looks a little bit better in decimal form. So I'm going to call that my interest rate, but I'm going to write it as 0.03 because that's what 3% would be in decimal form. Okay. And then it says, what is the interest? So what is I? So I'm not going to know what I is right now. What is the interest earned after 3 years? And so that 3 is going to be our time. So we have our R variable, which was the 3% or 0.03, and then the 3 years is our time. And so all I have to do is plug those numbers into this equation. I don't have anything to plug in for I, so I leave I alone. Equals P. Now, those 3 letters are squeezed together, which shows that they're being multiplied. So P times R times T. Scooch you over a little bit. Okay. So then I use my calculator. If you guys have calculators out, you can use them for this as well. And so I'm going to use my calculator, and I'm going to do 500 times 0.03 times 3, and I get 45. So I equals 45. That 45 is a dollar amount. So interest is a dollar amount. Interest is labeled in dollars. The principal is labeled in dollars. The rate's labeled as a percent, obviously, and time is in years. So that means part A, we have actually answered now when it says, what is the interest earned after 3 years? The interest earned after 3 years is $45. So because this is a small loan, only $500, for a small amount of time and with a very small interest rate of 3%, I don't actually have that much interest to pay. I only have to pay back an extra $45. Actually, sorry, I'm not paying anything back. This is the bank paying me because I'm the one that's putting it into the bank. So the bank has very little that they have to pay me. But part B says, what is the balance after 3 years? So to find the balance of your account, take the amount of money that you put in the bank and add it with the interest that you just earned. You earned $45 in interest. Okay, so then my bank account is now going to have $545 in it. That's how you find the balance. So part A, to answer part A, we said that the interest was $45. And then to answer part B, we said that the balance is $545 because we just have to add that interest on to the amount that we put in the bank. And so when I come back in 3 years, my bank account is going to have a little bit more money in it because the bank gave me a little extra interest for letting them borrow my money. All right, part C to this question says, what is the account balance after 9 months? Okay, so I'm going to use this formula again.
Asked me, I say, excuse me, you could have knocked. He said, I could have knocked. He said, this is my house. I don't have to knock about nothing.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button there. Okay, so in this problem, it said that our principal was $500 and our interest rate was 3%. So I'm going to go ahead and use those same values. Principal was $500. Okay, somebody needs to mute their mic.
How much he spent?
Thank you. Okay, so the interest rate was 3% again, which was 0.03. And then I have to times that by the time. Now, this is where this one can get a little tricky. So I'm using all the same numbers I used before. Now, I still don't know what the I interest is. I still don't know what that is yet. But I can't just plug in 9 for my time. Okay, and the reason I can't plug in 9 for my time is because we said that the time is always measured, oops, too far. It's always measured in years. And so when they say 9 months, if I plug in 9, that would mean 9 years, and that's not what I'm looking for. Who can tell me how many months there are in one full year?
12.
12, good. Okay, so when it says 9 months, what I'm actually going to use is 9/12 of a year, which, by the way, that fraction reduces to 3/4. 9 months would be 3/4 of the year. And what decimal does 3/4 represent? Does anyone have that memorized off the top of their head? 3/4?
0.75.
Thanks, Cadence. Yeah, 0.75. So I'm actually going to use 0.75 for my time. Now, I put this problem in your notes because you're going to have I think there's 2 homework questions where they, instead of giving you the time in years, they give it to you in months. And so I just want to make sure you guys know that, if it says 9 months, for example, that's actually 9/12 of a year, or 0.75. And then I'm going to use my calculator again. 500 times 0.03 times 0.75. Okay, I think I messed up. I left my good calculator at school, so I got to try this again. Is 11.25. Correct me if you guys are getting anything different from that. I'm using my cell phone, which isn't the best form of calculator, unfortunately. But I'm getting that the interest should be $11.25. And if you notice, that's much lower than the interest that we got last time. And that's because I left the money in the bank for a lot less time. So in the last problem, we left the money in the bank for 3 years. We earned more money because of that. In this problem, I left the money for less than a full year. So I'm not going to earn that much more money. Okay, so that's the interest. And then it says, what is the account balance? And so I put $500 in. I'm going to make an extra $11.25 because of that. And that's going to give me $511.25. would be my account balance. That's what's actually going to be in the bank when I check it in 9 months. Just a little bit more money. Okay, so that's how you find the interest. And then once you find the interest, to find the balance, I'm going to write this down again so you guys don't forget. If I can spell it correctly. To find the balance, I'm just adding the interest with the principal. So we added the $11.25 with the $500 that we put in the bank. And so that's how I know what my balance is. I got to use the simple interest formula. I got to use the IPERT formula to find out what I is. And then once I find what I is, add it on to that P, that principal, the $500 in this case that we put into the bank all the way up here. And that gives you your balance. Okay. Sorry, my screen's jumping around a little bit. There's a little bit of a lag on my end. Okay, so that's how you find the interest and the balance. Let's do a problem where instead of finding those, you're finding the rate. Okay, you've got to find R this time. It says you put $1,000 into an account. Okay, so again, that money that I start with, that's the principal. The account earns $100 in simple interest. Okay, so this time they're giving us the I variable. Okay, that's the interest. And the T variable, the time, is for 4 years. And this one's actually measured in years, so I don't need to try to convert it into a decimal. Okay, that's my time. It says, what is the annual interest rate? So there's my R. I don't know what R is, and I need to find it. Fortunately, I know what the other 3 letters are. So I'm going to plug in for I 100, because that's what the simple interest is, equals the P, the principal is 1,000. Again, the principal is always the money you start with. So if you're putting money into the bank or you're borrowing money from the bank, whatever that dollar amount is always your P variable, your principal. Okay, I don't know what the R is, so I'm going to leave it as R. And I know that the time is for 4 years. Okay. Okay, so how do I find my missing R variable now? Well, you'll notice that it's on the right side of the equation with some other numbers that are on the right side of the equation. So all I have to do is go ahead and I know I can't multiply by R because I don't know what R is, but these other 2 numbers, they're ready to be multiplied. And since I can multiply in whatever order, I'm going to go ahead and multiply them first. And so 1,000 times 4 is 4,000. Times R. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply the 2 numbers that I do have on that side. They're all three supposed to get multiplied together. So if I only have 2 of them, just multiply the 2 that you do have. And then we get this equation. And we've been solving equations like this all year long. Who can tell me what I would need to do to both sides to get R by itself?
Divide.
Good. Divide by what? What am I dividing both sides by?
4,000.
Now, when you put that into your calculator, don't be surprised when you get a really small decimal, because I'm supposed to find the interest rate, and that's a percent. So it makes sense that I would want to convert that to a percent. So when I divide both sides by 4,000, here's my calculator again, 100 divided by 4,000 is 0.025. And then if they ask you for the interest rate, so I'm finding R, I need to go ahead and convert that into a percent by moving the decimal 2 spots to the right. Can someone tell me what 0.025 would be as a percent?
2.5%.
Nice job. Which is a very low interest rate, okay? You'll find out as you do these problems, you get, when you're the one letting the bank borrow your money, they don't really give you a high interest rate. They're not going to pay you that much. But if you are the one borrowing from the bank, they charge you a very high interest rate because they're all about making money and not giving you money. So very low interest rate on this one. So that's how you find R if you're finding the rate. plug in the three numbers they do give you. One of them's the principal, one of them's the interest, one of them's the years. And then you would just plug it into the formula, multiply the two numbers that you do have, and solve for R. What if they ask you to find the time? Hey, can you not? Okay, it says a bank offers 3 savings accounts. The simple interest rate is determined by the principal, which I spelled wrong. I spelled principal like Mr. Horrell. There we go. Determined by the principal. Must have autocorrected. How long does it take an account with a principal, let me fix that again, of $800 to earn $100 in interest? Okay, so let's look at the numbers they've given us. It says the bank offers 3 different accounts. The simple interest rate is determined by the principal. So look here, we have 3 different rates that they're offering. The principal, it says, which is our capital P, which I did blue, is $800. Okay, so that's our principal. Plug that in right where the P goes. And it says that we want to earn $100 in interest. That's our I variable. Okay. All right. It says how long, so that we don't know what the time is. When it says how long, we're going to be asked to find the T variable. Of course, it says finding time right there, so that makes sense. But we don't know what to plug in for R until we decide which of these 3 different interest rates they're going to give us. If we give the bank, if we put $800 into the bank, which of those 3 interest rates are we going to get? The 1.5%, the 2%, or the 3%? What do you guys think? If we put $800 in the bank.
2%.
Nice job. $800 is between $500 and $5,000, and so they're going to give us the 2% interest rate. And that as a decimal, let me color that purple, is going to be 0.02. And then we're going to find out what the time is. And so just like before, we have 2 of the 3 numbers on the right side of the equation. Just to go back a little bit, it's kind of nice when we have all 3 of them. When we had all 3 of them, all we had to do was multiply them all together, and we had I. That was pretty easy. All we had to do is multiply those 3 together. But on a lot of the problems, unfortunately, they're only going to give us 2 of those 3 numbers. And so we're going to do the exact same thing we did last time. Multiply the 2 numbers that we do have together. They're ready to get multiplied right now. And so 800 times 0.02 is 16. Once I multiply the 2 numbers that I do have, I'm ready to go ahead and divide. Just like the last problem, we're going to divide that 16 on both sides so that we can get T by itself. And so 100 divided by 16 is 6.25. And time is always measured in years. So we'd say 6.25 years. Now, I would be completely fine with you guys giving me that as your answer. And of course, you got to label it in years. Now, let's use a little bit of critical thinking. Can anyone tell me, if I said 6.25 years, that's obviously 6 years. How many months is that? Does anyone know?
1.
How many?
3 months.
3.
3, yeah, 3 months. And if you're wondering how we know that, that's because 0.25 is actually 1/4, and 1/4 of a year is 3, because there's 12 months in a year, right? So now they're not going to ask you that on the homework tonight, so don't worry about that. But I just want to use a little bit of critical thinking that if someone said that your loan's going to be paid off in 6.25 years, that means 6 years and then 3 months of the following year. What if I said 6.5 years? That would be 6 years and how many months?
6 months.
Nice job. Yeah, because 0.5 means a half, and half of a year is 6 months. Yeah, remember the decimal's out of 10, but the months are out of 12. So it's not like 6.5 means 6 years, 5 months. It actually means 6 years and 6 months, because 6 months is exactly half of a year. Okay, let's look at part B of this. It says how long, so again, I'm finding the time again. How long does it take an account with a principal of $10,000 to earn $7,500 in interest? Okay, so we have a new principal, $10,000. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in for P. We also have a new interest. Instead of earning $100, we'd like to earn $750. So we have a new I as well. So we have a new I, have a new P for principal. So I'm going to plug the 750 in on this side of the equal sign. Because we have a new principal, we're going to have a new rate. Okay, so let's look at it back up here. If I give the bank $10,000 and open an account, which of these 3 interest rates are they going to offer me? The 1.5%, the 2%, or the 3%?
3%.
3%.
Because it's, yep, nice job, because it's more than 5,000. Yeah, so they're going to give me a slightly higher interest rate because I'm giving them more money. So 3% interest is actually the decimal 0.03, because I have to write my percents as decimals in order to use my calculator. And trust me, we definitely want to use our calculator on this lesson. And so now I've plugged in all the numbers I need, and I'm going to multiply the 2 numbers that I do have on this side because I'm trying to find T. I go ahead and multiply those 2. I'm going to use my calculator again. 10,000 times 0.03 is 300. And then I'm ready to solve this one-step equation. I just need to divide both sides by 300. 750 divided by 300 is 2.5. So again, I could label that in years. That's 2.5 years. And as someone mentioned before, that would mean 2 years and 6 months, because half a year would be 6 months. Okay. Now, tomorrow in class, we're going to spend a little bit of time. I want to talk to you guys about how you can collect debt on a credit card, like how your debt just gets out of control. If you took an extension class with me, first 9 weeks, we talked about how credit card debt can get out of control if you're not careful. So I'm actually going to show you guys how easy it is to get in debt with credit cards. Not that credit cards are pure evil. If you use them right, they can be very good to help you build your credit scores, which we'll talk about in class tomorrow. But I don't have time to right now. I'll show you guys what our national debt is. 16 trillion is, well, that was 5 years ago. So yeah, we'll talk about how much the United States is in debt. But there's one more type of problem I would like to show you guys how to solve for tonight's homework. And it's a problem where it says, find the amount paid on a loan. On every problem we've been doing so far, you're the one that's been giving the bank the money. So the bank's technically borrowing it from you and you're earning the interest. That's not very realistic. When I think of interest and when I think of loans, I usually think of me being the one borrowing it. Not that you can't give money to the bank and open a savings account. That's not what I'm saying. But usually when we calculate interest, we're trying to figure out how much we're going to have to pay back to the bank. And so that's what this question says. It says you borrow $600 to buy a violin. The simple interest rate is 15%. Now stop right there. I want you to notice how much higher this interest rate is versus every other problem we've done. We've had 2%, 2.5%, 3%. 15% is much higher. And that's because the bank's not as nice to us when we're the ones borrowing the money versus opening an account and giving them our money. So much higher interest rate here. When it says that you borrow $600, that is the principal again. The principal is always the amount that's borrowed. So either you're borrowing it or you're giving it to the bank, opening an account and letting them borrow it. So the amount of money you always start with is that principal. So I'm going to put $600 right here underneath the P variable in our simple interest formula, the IPERT equation. And then it says the interest rate, there's our R, is 15%. Okay. Can someone tell me what 15% is as a decimal?
0.15.
Excellent. Yep. Move the decimal backwards 2 spots, gives you 0.15. Okay. It says part A, you pay off the loan after 5 years. Well, that's our time. And remember, time is always measured in years. So I don't need to do any conversions. I can just plug 5 right into that equation. It says, how much do you pay for the loan? Well, in order to find out how much you're going to pay for the loan, you're going to have to calculate how much interest they're going to charge you. So to do that, you'll notice for once I actually have all 3 numbers on the right side of the equation. I don't need to do any dividing. I just go ahead and multiply 600 times 0.15 times 5, and you should get 450. Okay, and that's dollars. If you get 45,000 as your answer, that's because you forgot to hit 0.15. One of the most common mistakes I see with these simple interest problems is that when people see 15%, they plug the number 15 in for R instead of 0.15. So if you're getting an answer wrong in your homework, double check to make sure you're using the right decimal form of that percent. Now, we have not answered the question. This $450 is not what I'm going to pay back for the violin. It's the extra, it's the interest I'm going to have to pay back. So to find out what my bill is going to be for this loan, you're going to pay back the $600 that you borrowed. Obviously, they're not letting you get away with that. Plus, you're going to have to pay back another $450 in interest. So this violin, which is worth $600, is going to cost you $1,050. Now, it's going to cost you that much because you're paying it off. Look how long this loan's for. 5 years. Okay, if you can't afford to pay for a violin in 5 years, then you probably shouldn't get it, because that's what's going to happen. You're just going to get charged more interest every single year. They're going to increase the amount of interest that you pay. And so to find out how much you pay for the loan, just like we did on our very first problem when I asked us to find the account balance, how much did you borrow plus what's the interest you're going to have to pay? Okay, I think there's one more part to this. Yep, there's one more. What if you pay the loan off after 2 years? How much money would you save? So instead of making it a 5-year loan, what if you told the bank that you were going to only borrow money for 2 years? Well, I'm going to use the same numbers again. The violin cost $600, so I'm going to plug 600 in for the principal. The bank is giving us a 15% interest rate. And instead of borrowing it for 5 years, we're only borrowing it for 2 years. So that's going to go in for my time. And so that's going to give us a new interest. Got my calculator. 600 times 0.15 times 2 is 180. Okay, that's actually significantly lower. Still a lot of money, okay, but that's a lot lower. So my balance at the end of 2 years, if I was trying to figure out how much money I'd pay on this loan, I'm going to have to pay back the $600 plus $180 in interest, which means my $600 violin, if I paid off in 2 years, ends up costing me $780. And so the question is, how much money would you save? Well, a 5-year loan cost us this much money. A 2-year loan's only cost us that much. So let me go ahead and subtract and see how much money we're saving. Use my calculator here. 1,050 minus 780 means that paying the violin off 3 years earlier saves us $270. And so we'll talk about this more tomorrow. But one of the perks about having a lower, borrowing the money for a less amount of time is that you'll always save money on interest. If you can take out a shorter loan, you're going to want to do that. Now, not everybody's able to do that. Shorter loans mean higher monthly payments. So maybe you're able to do that. Maybe you're in a position where you can't afford those higher monthly payments, so you have to spread the payments out over a longer period of years. But if you can cut time off of your loan, you can save money. And some people will even pay their loans off early. So even if it was a 5-year loan, they'll pay it off in 3.5 years just so they save themselves some interest. Okay. So we have finished our notes, but I'm not dumb. This is a new topic and you might have questions over your homework. So I'm available all day long. If you guys want to set up a time to Zoom with me over some homework questions, if you want to email me a homework question, say, hey, I've tried this. Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? Am I plugging in the wrong number in the wrong spot? Let me know. Okay. We're going to come back to school, fingers crossed, hopefully tomorrow. And I will be able to answer even more questions because tomorrow is our question day. And we'll have an 8-question review worksheet that covers all this stuff in case you didn't get it the first time through. The nice thing about me recording this lesson is if there's a specific part of this lesson that you didn't, if there's a part of this lesson that you guys didn't understand, you can then, I'm going to post this on YouTube and you can just like scroll back and you can watch, how did you do that first example again, or whatever. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and I've held you over a few minutes. You guys are dismissed. Have a great rest of your day.